Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, July 6th. The year is 2023. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July, Independence Day, or as our friends in Canada call it, July 4th. Hope it was wonderful. Hey, really excited today to have with us Patrick Ferry and, as always, Buddy Blake. But let's start with a poll today before we start talking about becoming a local market expert. We're going to start with a poll related to this topic. And this poll question is, and you can select multiple options. How do you personally keep up to date on what's happening in your market? Do you set yourself up on a general automated market update, multiple specific automated market updates? Do you talk with other listing agents about the details of their recent transactions? Do you converse regularly with a lender or lenders? Do you do something else or some things else, I guess, or do you not do any of these things? Go ahead and put in your options and selections. We'll share those results in a moment, but let's turn now and introduce ourselves. My name is Robert Sagers. I'm one of the product managers here at Sierra Interactive, and I'm going to turn it to you, buddy. Who are you? Where are you?
Who are you?
Who are you and where are you?
Blake.
That's how we set up and build relationships. Who are you and where are you?
Absolutely.
How's the weather?
So I, Buddy Blake here in Wilmington, North Carolina, around the East Coast. And I run a small team. I've been doing this for quite a while. So excited to see Patrick and you guys today.
Patrick Ferry, you're on the West Coast just like me. Tell us a little bit about you, Patrick.
Hey guys, down in San Diego, work with my wife, who's a real estate agent, but I'm really a full-time coach with my brother's company, Tom Ferry. And, just been, but I'm also a client of Sierra. And so super excited to share today kind of how to use some digital marketing with some of the classic local market, local market domination expertise and, make it a rocking session.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for joining us today, Patrick. I know we've talked a number of times over the years, and I love the insights and the expertise you bring to so many different topics. And today we are going to be talking about becoming a local market expert. So if we are ready to share those results, those poll 1 results, hopefully we have them. And they are. Okay. How do you personally keep up with what's happening in your market? 36% of you on a general automated market update, 18% of you on multiple specific ones. 36% of you say that you talk with other listing agents about the details of their transactions. 18% of you say you converse regularly with a lender or lenders. 18% of you say something else. And 9% of you say you don't do any of these things. So you're not keeping up. This was a great webinar mastermind for you. So I want to ask this question first, Patrick, since, let's define our topic here. We're talking about becoming a local market expert today. How would you, in one word, and then in one sentence, describe or define what it is to be a local market expert? One word, one sentence.
Yeah, I saw this question and it was a little challenging, but the word to me is preeminence. And I borrow that from Jay Abraham, who's one of the most famous business consultants in the world. My brother paid him $30,000 a month for 12 months. He's worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. And he talks about becoming the preeminent advisor in the marketplace. And so that's the one word, one phrase. And then for me, to really dominate at the local level, we really want to become the most trusted real estate advisor in the market. Mm-hmm. So if we can accomplish that, you will become the most referable realtor in the market. So that's kind of the game for me is, the preeminence and becoming the most trusted real estate advisor in the marketplace. That's the most referable realtor ever. So
okay, yeah, and that frames it really well. Buddy, how would you describe it? We've talked about what it is to really know what's going on in your market. One word, one sentence. Do you have anything?
I think that each week we try to answer a question that the normal consumer, if you're in the grocery store line, will ask, how's the market? Mm-hmm. So we try to answer that question in threefold. Kind of macro, we use Altos research to follow, the overall trends for zip codes and subdivisions, are key ones. But then we certainly We use Sierra. I have all our agents set themselves up on an auto search every day in eAlert. But then the other thing we do is we pull showings reports. So because, to me, showing activity is always the tip of the spear, and very few agents actually go through the trouble. But really, each Wednesday, I try to go through and I'll do a Loom video and do a screen recording, and I share it with my agents so that they can take it to their sellers, especially now as things are shifting around, to give them ammunition for content. And then, but that really, I think if you know those things and then you have conversations with people, but you always have to answer the question, how's the market? And you gotta have different information, more in the trenches information, I think. But statistics and information like that is, what people turn to. Monday morning coffee. I mean, it's all makes up. That's our primary. I'm a numbers guy, so that's my content.
So maybe having understanding from multiple sources about what's going on. And hey, if you're watching us live right now, feel free to jump in the chat, ask questions. We'll do our best to get to all of them. Right now, just a shout out to where people are watching from. We've already identified, I didn't identify myself. I'm on the Oregon coast. Patrick's in San Diego area, Buddy, Wilmington, North Carolina. Angie watching from Collinsville, Illinois. Terry from Knoxville, Tennessee, go Vols. Kristen, Indianapolis, good to see you. Jason, Seattle. Glee from Gulf Shores, Alabama. Imagine it's hot today. Amelia in Dallas-Fort Worth area. You know that area, Patrick. Dallas-Fort Worth. Wendy in Costa Mesa, California. Kim, Lexington, Kentucky. Shaden Sharp. Josie in West Palm Beach. Scott, Pee Wee Valley. It's Louisville, Kentucky. Serge in Edmonton. Bill in Fresno. Jessica in Waxahachie. I hope I did not butcher that. I'm sure somebody from Texas will let me know if I did. Thank you. And Sherry in Denver, Colorado so far. Thanks everybody for joining. Why is it, Patrick, why is it important for you to know what's going on in your market specifically? Why is that important?
Yeah, I think because the customer is attracted to the hyper local expert. So, people ask me every day as a coach, what sets me apart from another agent? And they tend to start speaking in kind of realtor jargon. And it's actually, it's like when I was out there, talking to buyers and sellers, they were challenging me at the highest level. Do you know about this property that sold a year ago across the street four houses down? Mm-hmm. Do you know about this? Tell me about that. The buyer was always asking me questions that only the hyperlocal expert would know. And then as soon as I really understood that if I knew these details better than anyone else, property types, lifestyle, price points, what's kind of trending in the marketplace, who lives there, culture, demographics, kind of whatever. Soon as I knew that information and I was able to translate that information, whether I was in a presentation, whether I was digitally, whether or not, whatever, all of a sudden I found that people were leaning in and wanting more from me, asking me questions, asking me, can I have your card, right? At open houses, when I presented the hyperlocal expertise information, which I've covered extensively on my YouTube channel, on my open house stuff, that I've gotten, thousands of agents have basically said that hyperlocal presentation content has gotten me many clients at an open house. That was all the evidence that I needed personally, was to see how people leaned in, engaged me more, asked me for my information. And then when I kind of shared that with a bunch of my friends out there in the community, they used it. And it's just ridiculous amounts of clients have come from figuring out how to represent yourself as the hyperlocal expert, right? So it's a winning formula. And then, as a business model, which we'll get to, I just believe that it's absolutely the best business model. And we'll just touch this for a second. One of the best coaches that I've worked with, Eileen Rivera, she said to me and my father-in-law when we were working on our geographic farm strategy, she said, my perfect real estate day is I go on 2 listing appointments and I'm at home in my pajamas with a glass of wine on the couch within 15 minutes of the last appointment. Now, I didn't understand that until I was driving home in traffic for an hour after a listing appointment. And I went, oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I want that.
You don't speak
Right?
that local, right?
People talk about, well, I don't want any buyers. I want to become a top listing agent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I had a buyer for the city, the zip code that I live in, Solana Beach, I'll take that buyer all day long. I don't want a buyer for El Cajon, 45 minutes away from me. So the hyperlocal expert as a business model is also one of the best lifestyles. And it's also an incredibly valuable, you become more attractive to the general public and they want to work with you versus us trying to chase everybody down and try and win them with whatever the stupid script is of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know about you guys, but that just sounds way better to me. It's way more fun.
You mentioned people are attracted to the expert. You got to know what you're talking about, though, right? You got to have some integrity to the things that you're sharing.
Of course.
A friend of mine enjoyed the other day when I was talking about humidity, having lived in Kentucky, I said, oh, humidity. And he said, well, I've been to Hawaii. I said, no, it's nothing like that. And he enjoyed later learning that I had never been to Hawaii. There was no integrity in what I was saying. I was just saying it because I thought it would be hotter in Kentucky. But buddy, how do you personally keep up with what's going on in your market to have the integrity to speak to the things that you're asked about? How do you keep up?
Well, I think it's communication. I mean, one of the values to having a team is being able to talk to your team, and they're in the front, the trenches, talking to other agents. I do a lot of new homes and builder business. Mm-hmm. So we get an awful lot of info from site agents, lenders. I mean, a little bit of everything, because I think, to me, as Patrick said, I think everything comes down to stories and how you can relate it and show your professionalism and your expertise. But I really think it depends you got to understand who is listening to you, because if it's a local person, there's a good chance it's, in our market anyway, it's more likely to be a seller potential. If it's somebody, an internet lead, and you're having conversations with them, it's a different conversation. They're probably not so worried about what showing activity is or things like that. Or even days on market to some degree. They're more concerned about how can I get a house and how to make an offer. But I think that you got to know where things are changing. Like in our market, for instance, the amount of non-refundable deposits, it's changed in the last 6 months. Those are the things that we take for granted by being in the industry, that the consumer, that's our value. They don't understand where those are, because we'll get a new agent that has no experience still putting down a $50,000 deposit, when the reality is we're seeing more $5,000 deposits now. You know what I mean? And so you got to understand where you're at in the market and what's going on.
So you can give good advice and help provide real value to people. Let's ask.
But it's communications.
Exactly. Let's do our second poll. And that is, and again, another multiple choice. If you're watching live, you can answer this question. How do you keep your leads up to date on what's happening in your market? Do you set them up on market updates, automated market updates? Do you send out mass emails, maybe with a video or content? Do you send out custom emails to specific leads that you somehow identify? Do you drive traffic to your website content with up-to-date information? Do you do something else or some things else, or do you do none of those things? Let's look at some questions here in the chat. And jump into it. Jason asked about the 3 things you said, buddy, and you responded already. E-alerts for micro, market trends by zip code and area with Altos Research, and then showings by area. We'll come back to that, I'm sure. Josie asked, what is the best way to see? That's about something else. We'll go back to that. Amelia says, when you work in a large area, Dallas, Fort Worth, how do you is her example. And Patrick, I'll ask you, you're in San Diego. How do you become an expert in a big area? She says, can you clarify for large areas what you were talking about and the expectation? Do you have any thoughts right away just about becoming a market expert in a large area? Do you need to know all of Dallas, Fort Worth? Do you need to know a subset of it? Does it depend on how long you've been in the industry and your relationships? Walk Amelia through that, and anybody else in a big a big metropolitan area?
Yeah, I mean, my response right away, because Dallas is massive, and so San Diego County is where I live is massive too. And I have found that if I claim that I can service all of San Diego County, I know for sure that I underserve my knowledge expertise of specific areas. But over time, I tried to get into as many communities, into as many properties, and to learn about as many different sections of San Diego County, so I can represent myself as a professional. But the longer I'm in this business, the more it's like I need to hunker down and really focus on dominating a local marketplace and just becoming that next level of expert, and then to drive more of my energy into a smaller geographic territory. DFW is just way too big, right? Like how would you even be able to tell someone who's relocating to Dallas that you're just an expert of all Dallas? That's like a really difficult play. Now, can you do it? Absolutely, right? Because you just know more than the consumer, and just being ahead of the consumer by 2 steps is really all that's really required for someone to provide quality service. But, as a business model, I just don't think that's a good idea, right? Right. Hunker down. And then, if we get time, let's talk about kind of how do you build a business model on a smaller geographic territory by understanding what the real financial value is. And then how do we run a marketing and communication plan to be able to get a percentage of that income? And I think, the big spray and pray kind of business model, I think in the real estate industry has pretty much failed miserably in the last 5 years, 10 years, as far as I'm concerned. Right. So it's almost like going back, buddy, to like that old school classic pre-internet geographic farm level of like in the 70s and 80s when my dad got into real estate. It was like you were assigned a territory. Right. And so what's the modern version of that, right? That we can absolutely crush with all the great tools we have today: Sierra Interactive, Google Business Profile, YouTube. But let me just address the email thing really fast, and I'll shut up. But because I think that's probably the single biggest mistake in the real estate industry, right? We were on earlier with a bunch of digital marketers with Sierra Interactive. When I go study the top 10 highest authorities in digital marketing in the world, right? The Gary V's, we're talking about some of the biggest digital marketers. The email newsletter is the foundation of all digital marketing. It is the foundation, except for in real estate. Surprise, surprise. That's kind of weird. And so then to me, it's email newsletter, and then it's also YouTube. So YouTube plus email plus Sierra Interactive, that right there is a massive winning formula to keep people engaged, right? And if we're on drip campaigns of a bunch of automated BS, well, then you're never going to build a relationship with your customers. But if you, take some of the things that Buddy already said about content, put that onto a YouTube video, put it into an email, put it into a campaign with Sierra, and now you have a winning formula with a cold lead or someone who's really just trying to learn more about you and your marketplace, right? It's really nice when people reach out to you and say, hey, could you work with me after they've watched 5 of your YouTube videos? You don't even have to sell yourself at that point. Or if they've been following along your email newsletter and they thank you for some of the content on that newsletter, they actually thank you for that. It was really helpful. That I really appreciated what you did. And now can we talk a little bit about what I want to accomplish? I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty nice when your customer thanks you before they have ever met you. That's pretty cool. Or we can, go chase cold leads, with all this automated, templated BS, and try and win them over with your scripting and your rapport. I'm happy to do that. I've perfected that. But it's nice when they kind of reach out and say, Patrick, I'd love to work with you specifically, and thank you for everything you've done. I found you on, and I've been following you for a while, and I'd like to work with you. That's nice. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, and And let's dive deeper on some of those items in a minute. I do want to ask you, I'll start with you, buddy. Buddy, tell me, to all of us in 30 seconds or less, what's going on in your specific market, Wilmington, North Carolina, that you think potential buyers need to know. Let's show that we know what we're talking about here. What's going on in your market? 30 seconds left. I'm a potential buyer. What do I need to know, buddy?
A lot of our buyers are buying short-term rentals, VRBO and things like that. And it's off 47% as far as occupancy this year. So they need to know that and not make mistakes. And you need to tell them honestly.
Patrick, what's going on where you are? San Diego area.
San Diego, kind of like, most of the high-end markets that I'm dealing with in terms of clients, we've had a 30% reduction, in the total amount of inventory, right? With the doubling of interest rates, which has dropped the buyer demand out of the market. So we see more cash buyers. And so a lot of the conversation today is, that how is now a great time to buy a home in relationship to interest rate and price point? And in the future, if we believe that interest rate is going to go down, what will that do in terms of driving buyer demand back into the market on top of the low supply? And I think it's a pretty obvious answer. Prices will go where? Right. So
Patrick,
how do we communicate this message effectively without sounding so salesy and annoying? Right. So that's kind of really what's happening for us in San Diego is cash is king. Right. And, we have a ton of buyers on the sidelines and we have constricted inventory worse than it's ever been. So that's keeping prices stable, if not moving up, depending on, the area of the property. We don't have new construction. So new construction is pretty much an irrelevant conversation for kind of most of my clients. But if you have new construction, then you have more inventory to be sold. So then that, depending on what's going on, that might cause some, softening in a market. But that's kind of what we're talking about these days.
Patrick, I live near you in San Diego. I've got a house I'm thinking about selling. What do I need to know? 30 seconds or less.
All you need to know is congratulations.
This is your time. You just mentioned, inventory.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, I have one listing that I just put on the market. I sold it for, I helped the buyer for 1.8, I don't know, 4 years ago, and I'm going to sell it for 3.6. So, hello, congratulations, right? I have another client who bought in the same time for 1.1. We're going to sell it for 2.3. Congratulations. What else do you want to talk about? It's really, how do I help you guys plan this out appropriately so we can get you into whatever the next thing is? Because the next thing is actually harder than this thing. So let's talk about how I can support you with really the transition plan. And you're going to do really well. And I'm going to make sure that you get maximize your return on investments. No problem. That's the easy part.
Buddy, I've got a vacation home in Carolina Beach and I'm thinking about selling it. What do I need to know?
Take your money off the table. Don't try to 1031. Don't take a bad deal, move it into a good deal, move it into a bad deal. We're seeing a lot of people do a lot of 1031 exchanges and they're making mistakes, in my opinion. But I think if you take your money off the table, you've done well. Like Patrick said, you've done better in the last 4 years than anybody historically has ever done in 4 years.
Excellent. Thanks for showing your local market expertise. All right, let's go to our poll results, our second poll results. The question was, how do you keep your leads up to date, on what's happening in your market? 54% of you set your leads up on automated market updates. That's a good thing. 31% of you send out a mass email newsletter, potentially with a video overview or something like this. 27% of you, a little bit less, send custom emails to specific leads that you've identified, maybe your sphere or past clients. 31% of you, a little surprised, driving traffic to your website content about the market. That's good to hear. 19% of you say something else, and 12% of you say you don't do any of those things. I'm curious, you spoke a little bit to this, Patrick, but tell me which of those items you do. Which of those things do you do to keep your leads up to date in your market?
Yeah, I think, and this survey doesn't surprise me, right? It's like, at the bare minimum, we want to set someone up on a simple, market update, kind of, I don't automated. I think what we're talking about is probably a save search where people are
A market
following.
report or
Yeah,
a
market
home bot
report.
or something like this.
Yeah, so HomeBot is amazing with the combination of a market report customized to my property. So for every past client who owns a home, we set them up on a customized market report from Sierra. And then now we're kind of integrating the HomeBot so they can have access to an AVM, and then we're customizing the AVM. So every homeowner should have those two things, right? So I say, if you want to follow the value of your home like a professional would, you would have an AVM, and you would follow the comps. So market report. Then the third thing is you would have someone sharing housing market education, i.e. the email, newsletter, and YouTube. So if you're following the market like a pro as a homeowner, you're going to have those three things available to you. So what we're trying to work on now is how do we kind of make that a great process so that our customers, what I've said, and I think, buddy, you'll like this, on a listing appointment 6 months before they're going to put their home on the market, I said, I want you to be able to understand the value of your home better than the average real estate agent. So I'm going to set you up on an automated market report where I'm going to customize it for your property so that you can actually follow the value of your home like a pro. And then, she was like, wow, thank you so much. That was so helpful. So for future listings, and then for all of our past customers, then we get that service well organized, make it something that you're proud to share. And then now let's go out into your geographic farm in your local area, social media, and let's extend that offer. And let's get a bunch of people following the unique value of their home like a professional with you, right? This is my new concept called digital farming. So, Sierra provides an amazing opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting, Buddy, what Patrick was just saying. I didn't hear him say, I do these things so that my leads will know how smart I am. I heard him say the words that were not these specific words, but basically, I want to educate you, and I want to do this collaboratively or together.
Yes.
What do you do, Buddy, what have you found most successful of those items to help educate and provide real value to people to keep them up to date in your market?
I think the trends report right now, e-alerts, we've always, in market updates, we've relied on for years and years. But the problem is when there's so few listings, they just don't fire often enough.
Yeah.
Or when they go to a market update, there's no data there. And it's not because the system's failed, it's just no data because there's nothing moved.
Yeah.
So we use trends an awful lot. And, we try to get that out there because they are all interested. Anybody that owns a house is interested in what's going on in the market, inventory levels. The concept of inventory level used to be something that just us realtors talked about. Every consumer out there's no homes for sale. There's no home. They know as much as the agents do in some cases because they're watching it.
Right. Well, and if you're one of Patrick's clients, then you're going to hopefully know more than the typical real estate professional about what's going on in the market. And I know both of you are super interested in websites and SEO. Providing content on your website. I'm curious, I want to go deeper on one of these items a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, we talked with our friend Joe Heath. We were talking about SEO, and we talked a little bit about long tail SEO. And for example, writing a content page, building a community page for kind of niche areas like historic homes in San Diego and things like this. Maybe haunted homes in Wilmington, if you will. It's a real thing, right? There's the ghost stories,
for sure.
right? And even the tours you can take. I'm curious, how do you take your website into account, if you do at all, when you're thinking about leveraging your market expertise, educating site visitors and this type of thing? Buddy, I want to start with you. In the past, currently, how have you thought about your website in terms of leveraging how you can educate people about the market?
I think the biggest thing is, again, I'm going to go back to stories, real-time stories, what's really going on in the market, what is, right now. versus, and I liked what Patrick said earlier, the boilerplate crap that we just all used to send out. And I think, I like doing it by video. I'll do a short video, and then I'll get the transcript and then either just copy and paste that, or I'll use Chat GPT to create a nice little, it's really pretty simple because I'm not a good writer. And if I can do the video, it can convert into a pretty nice thing to use, and it's not complicated now, and it's certainly not expensive.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, I see a lot of nods from you. What do you do when you think about your website and how you can leverage it for educating site visitors?
Yeah, I just want to touch one thing that Buddy just said, which is using the Chat GPT. And so if you ask Chat GPT kind of a prompt, so this is a good practice for me. It's like, hey, Chat GPT, what are the best practices for SEO, on-page SEO optimization? And it'll write out what it knows. And then you go, hey, could you take this transcript of a YouTube video and apply that formula to this transcript? And then it'll write it in that SEO optimized way. And so that some of the prompting on Chat GPT for asking it, does it understand what kind of SEO optimization is, confirming that, and then applying that prompt to our content is unbelievable right now. And then you can go advanced levels. And this is kind of fun, Buddy. I don't know if you've tried this yet, but go, ChatGPT, can you tell me the qualities and characteristics of, the average homeowner in Wilmington, North Carolina? And it'll give you a really nice summary, and then go, okay, cool. Could you optimize that blog post for a potential home buyer for Wilmington, North Carolina in that tone? And then it'll go, and it'll change it into that tone. Super interesting, really fun. So, as you guys kind of explore prompting with ChatGPT to kind of identify, does it have an expertise or a voice? Does it understand the qualities and characteristics? Then ask it to write things from that perspective. And it's brilliant, right? So super fun there. Yeah. And so, but just going back to Sierra and content and education, Robert, this, and I've said this to everybody, the main reason why I am a Sierra Interactive, I have a Sierra Interactive website, and I am a, pro Sierra Active representative as a coach, is because I believe the agents really need to be able to learn how to execute high quality educational content marketing, and taking that high quality educational content and structuring it onto a website for lead conversion is, to me, a high priority. Now, the how to do that is where it starts to get tricky. But, if you're creating a YouTube video, how do we embed that into a blog post? If we take that YouTube video and we transcribe it, can we, add some content to a community page? Can we make sure that we have homes for sale on every single, niche community that maybe, Zillow or Realtor are not really approaching? Can we create content to that? And, can we just really build a really nice net and signal to the search engines that, hey, we've got a high quality website resource that lots of people are using, lots of people are spending time on, people are really engaging with the quality of the content, so that the search engines go, wow, look at that. Let's recommend this website, these web pages, this content more often to the people that are searching. And so the goal is really, to me, is that, if we're all, we were talking earlier, Buddy, we were on the same website platform many years ago. If I would have known what I know today and had some of the cool automation tools that I have today, if I would have had those, 5 or 7 years ago, and would have just slowly started on content marketing between blog posts and building out community pages and building out a nice quality email newsletter and a YouTube channel, I wouldn't be talking to you guys today. I would have already sold the asset for probably $10 million and I'd be retired. So it really is annoying to me that the real estate community is still not kind of grasping this content, this topic yet. Because a lot of us mega, top agents, we just kind of had the website as a online brochure. To me, that's a disaster. Why would I pay anyone for an online brochure? I want an online brochure with all my education. That's really an educational portfolio that attracts new clients that I can use to service my existing customers, right? That I am proud of. That's what I want. I don't need an online brochure. You know what I mean? Like, duh.
I
Anyways.
think I even quoted you a couple weeks ago when we were talking about SEO, about having that website as an asset. I'm curious, buddy, when you were thinking, I'll just ask you because I don't know the answer. Are you still, I mean, you've got me set up on a HomeBot, wrong ocean, but I appreciate getting that information. Are you, buddy, are you still sending out kind of custom videos to specific people about what's going on in the market? Are you doing video recordings and how to read a market update and this type of thing?
I would say to warm leads, we are a
The warm
conversation. We have somebody that we've had a conversation with, and we'll follow up with it, or if there's interaction, but not to every single one of them.
Right.
We migrated from HomeBot. I mean, you're still on it as kind of a,
I'm a legacy.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we moved everything over to Fellow, which is same concept, just, they've made it prettier.
Right. Okay, so you're still doing some of those. And I'm curious, how is it, you mentioned warm leads, people you've had a conversation with. So this is mostly more of a, I'm in a place now where I am a new lead, or only, is it new and warm? Or can it be an existing lead that is ready to make a move that you're deciding to spend that custom time?
I mean, we're working mostly on people that are in our database now, because we're not doing it as amount of lead gen as we once did, because quite honestly, we weren't taking care of the folks we already had as well as we should and communicating with them. But I will tell you, we are having some wonderful conversations with homeowners who have been in our system for a very long time. And they have been getting older. Life has been changing. They've been going through life, experiences that we all do. And they can only wait so long. And the person or persons that are there, perceived, as Patrick said, as the expert, and who also is top of mind combined, they are going to win the day on that, because we're seeing, I mean, just today, one of my agents told me they got a listing appointment from somebody that's been in, that we got from an old home value lead system 6 years ago. Okay. They haven't been responded, but all of a sudden they responded. Now, in our definition of a lead, it would be a crappy lead, because they've never responded, they've never answered their phone, they've never did anything. But guess what? They've been absorbing that content all along. And as their life changes and something happens in their life, people will have to sell again, and no interest rate is going to stop it at some point.
Yeah. So there seems to be a combination of ensuring that you have at the base minimum your leads set up on a market update of some sort, be it through Sierra or HomeBot or Fellow, something along those lines. Having some process or formula for identifying leads that you want to send something custom to, be it a warm lead or a past client, this type of thing. And then making sure you've got some kind of process for adding content onto your website, not as a brochure, as you mentioned, Patrick, but as a number one, thinking long-term, your website as an asset, but also as educating people when they are coming onto your site. Speaking of brochure, Patrick, and I've heard you talk about this before, but when you're thinking about, when real estate professionals thinking about branding, is there anywhere, if anywhere, that you think real estate professionals can get off track when they're thinking about personal branding and the services they provide? Now, this will touch on education and the local market expert, but I'm wondering if there's anywhere they go off track.
Yeah, I think the word branding is a tricky word, and there's a couple definitions that I like. So let's talk about those, and then that'll kind of help out with the off track vibe, right? And so one of the things I think Neil Patel, who's one of the top digital marketing educators, he said the purpose of a high quality brand and to invest in your brand is to increase the conversion of your marketing efforts. So, when we're all competing, let's say with Zillow, if I was running an ad, a pay-per-click ad, homes for sale in Solana Beach, And then there's, my ad is at the top of the Google results, the search engine results page. And then right below that is Zillow. So if the average customer is like, oh yeah, Patrick, then I get the click. If they don't know me and they go, oh yeah, Zillow gets the click. So one of the, kind of in digital marketing, branding is really about kind of getting the click to the response, right? Someone's like considering selling their home in the geographic farm territory, right? And they're, they got your inbox and it's like, oh yeah, Buddy Blake and the team. That's right, Buddy Blake, right? So because I have a long exposure to Buddy as a real estate pro. And so when so that's branding. It increases the response rates to our marketing. Okay, so that's number one. And then the second thing to me, because I work with a lot of clients, like I have a coaching client who has 600,000 followers on TikTok and 30,000 followers on Instagram, right? So in the social media zone, branding to me is more about what are the public topics that you're passionate about, and let's make sure that we are kind of clear on those. And then let's make sure that we're kind of presenting your public passions, these topics, to the marketplace so people can get a sense of kind of what they should be talking to you about. And obviously one of those things is real estate. And then inside of real estate, we can kind of break down a couple things. We can say, do you have knowledge about real estate finance? Do you have knowledge about real estate investing? Do you have knowledge about first-time home buyers? Do you have knowledge about relocation? Do you have knowledge about the housing market and economics? Does your brand reflect to the customer that you actually have knowledge and that you're passionate about, and you want to have conversation with people about these different topics? So on the social side, I try and kind of put it into a simple framework. And then on the digital marketing side, that's where it's like, all right, how do we win the click over Zillow and Realtor, right? If I'm running an ad or if I'm there organically, that's really pretty powerful, right? That's very interesting.
And then making sure you've got the substantive goods to give when somebody does click to respond, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's go to poll number 3. If we are ready for our third poll, and this will be a single choice. Have you ever been able to tie a client's working with you to your market expertise? The answers are yes, no, maybe so, and I don't know. Enjoy those rhymes. So yes, you have been able to tie a client working with you to your knowledge of your market. You never have. You might have, you're not sure, and maybe so, and I don't know, are the same answer. But I just kept those in there because it's a fun and rhyme. So have you ever been able to tie it? I'm curious, Buddy, if you can tell me how you think a proper understanding of empathy can inform becoming a local market expert.
Well, I mean, I think being absolutely transparent and honest with people, and sometimes saying something that's not salesy and fun, and the reason, sometimes being the person that says, hey, maybe now's not the best time to buy something for you. I think listening, first off, you got to listen to what they're saying. But when you go to, is a client working with you for your expertise, that's a personality thing. I don't get a lot of clients through social media and things like that because I am not a warm and fuzzy social kind of person. I'm a nuts and bolts. I'm going to attract the bankers, the engineers, and the builders because they know I'm not going to, BS them in any way. I'm just going to shoot them straight, good, bad, or ugly. And sometimes they don't, most of the time they don't like what I hear because I'll be a bit too conservative. But I also tell them, I said, listen, I don't want to be the person that's responsible for getting you into something that could lose everything. Because, you get a builder in a 200 unit subdivision and all of a sudden they could lose everything in that one deal. And I don't want to be that guy.
Right. That's interesting. So empathy to you is really thinking about being honest and transparent, even to the point of a short-term, quote unquote, loss.
Yeah, because I feel like the perception of a lot of folks in our industry, or outside of our industry, looking at it is we are just going to tell you whatever you want to hear. And we scream, it's always a great time to do X. Well,
Right.
sometimes it's not a great time to do X.
Yeah.
So
it'd be interesting. That would be an interesting
Mhm.
postcard campaign. Now is a bad time to buy, and see what kind of comes of that. Patrick,
That's
how about
actually
you?
very successful in YouTube, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So
So long
YouTube
as you have kind of a
SEO,
shocked face on your
it's
camera.
it's wildly successful. Don't buy in blank if, right?
Right.
Or the 5 reasons not to buy here, right?
Mhm.
And if you actually don't be salesy and you're actually honest about it, it works really, really well, right?
Yep. Right. And Patrick, how do you use empathy, or how do you think empathy informs becoming a local market expert?
Yeah, so empathy is the gateway drug to understanding the customer journey. And so it's like, okay, how do I go walk in the shoes of the buyer today? So, if I was walking in the shoes of the relocation buyer, and I was sitting in, Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm getting transferred as a military, and I'm being transferred to San Diego, and I'm the wife of the, Navy SEAL who's coming here. And so empathy is putting yourself into her shoes with, 3 kids running around, and she's jumping online, and she's trying to come to a good conclusion about kind of where to live and what's the best place to live in San Diego, because she's being relocated with, to, this one employer of San Diego. Empathy is the gateway to that customer's journey and going, how could I serve them? What are all the questions that they have?
Mhm.
What's some of the research that I can share with them? What are some of the things that this person would want to know? And how do I make sure that I try and give them, and answer as many of those questions up front, which then immediately puts me in the position that I am the expert to that person. And then they're like, wow, it's like, when they say, it's like, you read my mind. How did you even know? It's like, well, I work with people just like you, and people just like you ask me all of these questions. People just like you want to know things like this. And I've already created a blog post or YouTube video or a guide, a relocation guide specifically for you. And so empathy is the gateway to that, right? It's like putting yourself in their shoes, right? And one example really kind of smacked me across the face was, my wife and I, we bought a house, and then we fixed it up, sold it, bought a fixer, fixed it up, sold it, bought another one, fixed it up, live in it, right? And in that kind of buy, sell journey, fix it up, buy, sell journey, I realized that the advice that real estate agents give when someone is selling and buying at the same time is actually really poor compared to what I experienced. I was like, because I walked through the shoes of that process and how stressful it was and how many details I was missing. And, me and my wife, as a pro real estate agent, she's really good as a realtor. So her and I were really detailed about it. And then I went, what did I just say to the last, seller who wanted to sell and buy? I'm like, oh my gosh, my advice to them was so pathetic compared to what was possible. And so empathy is really kind of trying to walk in the shoes of your perfect customer, and then start to serve them where they're at, and try to create content and education that meets them as if they're like, wow, I can't believe you put all of this together and answered almost all of my questions before I ever even met you. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, not everybody's naturally empathetic. And so I think there is something to having the discipline to disrupting your typical flow of things, which is, I am going to try and work them to an end, versus let me try and take a moment, step out, and think about where they're coming from.
Yep.
Buddy, you mentioned your nuts and bolts. Do you find that you're naturally empathetic, or how do you kind of work in, because I know you do this, buddy. You're thinking about what the other, being transparent and honest, because you probably want somebody to be transparent and honest with you. How do you build empathy in order to demonstrate, kind of back to the top here, we're talking, Patrick, that you're trustworthy for somebody to come and ask about what's going on in your market?
Well, I think how you formulate questions makes a big difference. I mean, whenever somebody says, "Hey, I want to sell my house," okay, before I ask them where it is, tell me about it, how many square feet. As I'm like, okay, Robert, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's have a
Why?
conversation about that.
Right.
Yeah, why and what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And is something as simple as that can change the whole dynamic of the conversation, because otherwise, in the old days, we'd sit down with the old Bob Corcoran intake sheet and we just fill out, here's this, LP mama, and we just roll through the whole thing. And I'm not saying it was wrong, but you just have to ask some open-ended questions and find out what's really going on. You need to know that so you can certainly respond and serve them first. But the other thing you need to know is it, how much time are you going to invest in this situation? Like, we're getting a number of people in our world, everybody's wanting to update their insurance coverage right now because it's just changed along the coast and everything. So now they're wanting to update it. So we're getting worn out with all these fellow leads where people wanting to update their insurance info. But we serve them. You know what I mean? We give them the information and we ask them the question, what's going on? So.
Right. So it's just having that curiosity. So really that could be a great discipline, right, Patrick? To say, I'm gonna come at these conversations with a why mentality before I get into, let me lead them somewhere, let me show them how smart I am. I know everything that's going on, but having some curiosity to know what's going on behind the question.
Yes. And there's two things I want to point out. Buddy, with his incredible years of experience, he's able to recognize the patterns.
He's saying I'm old.
I didn't say it, buddy.
Wisdom.
Wisdom. I may have thought it.
I'm turned 48
quarter
this year.
century of wisdom in the real estate profession.
It's pattern recognition, right? So I don't have natural empathy. I don't have natural curiosity. I'm really poor on that sales. I'm kind of in the analytical, similar to Buddy, but I started to just recognize the patterns. Hey, I got in my pay-per-click leads, I got a lot of relocation buyers. And then I started to notice whenever I got on the phone and talked to the relocation buyers, a lot of the why, as Buddy was saying, the ones with a lot of money were moving because they're getting closer to the grandkids. And so I started to hear this pattern over and over again. And so then it was like, oh, okay. And so then I started to work through from there. Like, how do I kind of walk that person through? And same thing with, when the interest rates were super low, it was the trade uppers, right? I owned a townhome and I bought it for 500,000. I could sell it for 900. And now I just had a kid and I want to move from South County to North County. And I want to move from, kind of the urban to suburban. So I just started recognizing the patterns. And so the practice of empathy is really to just kind of, okay, now put myself in their shoes. And now how do I serve them as a real estate advisor, right? And then now, okay, cool, let's roll.
And that's how the head and the heart can really work together, is the analyzing the patterns, the meta patterns you're seeing, but then having the curiosity to say, I wonder what's behind some of these patterns I'm seeing. And when you marry those together, you can really, I think, start providing a lot of value in understanding not only what's going on in the market, but why that's happening, and thus how you can serve people who are in that situation. I did want to ask you, Patrick, when you're thinking about working and educating your past clients, sellers that you've worked with in the past, for example, how important is it that you keep them up to date with the current value of their home? How do you think through that? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think, one of the, and congrats to, Robert, you and the team at Sierra, you guys really did a great job with improving the market report email, right? And so answering the very first question that you asked, I immediately set myself up on a market update report for Solana Beach. And then if I really wanted to follow the value of my home in Solana Beach, I would then go customize that market report to be, in Southern California, we have the 5 freeway goes right down the coast. So if you're on the east side of the 5 freeway, it's one different price point. If you're on the west side of the 5 freeway, it's a different price point. So I would customize my market report to be west of the 5 and do that in Sierra. And then I would select that it's a single story, single family. And then I'm a smaller square footage, but I'm a pretty decent lot. So because I'm a local expert, I would know I'm not going to do anything. I just want single story, right? Single family west of the 5. And if I just followed my market report, and as Buddy said, we're in a lower level of kind of turnover. So I probably want to look at that once every 2 weeks, and then set my Sierra parameters for, look at sold data for the last 90 days. And then I can look at active pending sold, and I can get a really good experience. And I can just follow the market of single family, single story, west of the 5 in Solana Beach. And it doesn't get much better than that in terms of really understanding the true value of your home. Mm-hmm. And there is no replacement. The AVMs out there, they could never know the nuance between west of the 5 and east of the 5. No AVM's ever going to understand that. And only the hyper-local expert agent who will set their customer up, their past client up for that custom market report. That is the gold, right? No Zillow, no Realtor, no Redfin can ever pull that off. No AVM. So, we need to be the ones singing the story that it's never been more important in the history of real estate to follow the value of your home like a pro. And we, as the local experts, have an amazing tool that we will customize for them, and we will bring them along that journey so they can watch it closely. Some people like to watch it like a hawk. Some people just like to occasionally look at it, right? And so every person on the planet, I did some SEO research the other day, and if you look up on an SEO research tool, 37,000 times in the last 30 days, someone typed into how much is my house worth? 37,000 times in the last 30 days, someone typed that into a Google or a search. And then of all of the variables of those questions and queries, it's 357,000 times every single month. Someone is going to Google or Bing or whatever and typing some version of how much is my house worth? 357,000 times in the last 30 days. So the fact that we as a real estate community are not screaming from the rooftops, if you want to have a hyper-local expert to share with you how to follow the unique value of your home like a professional, I'm here. I've got great tools. I've got great resources. Come over here. Let's do this.
That's exactly right. Let's go to the results of the third poll. And while I'm there, this is a thing I've heard before, but in California, it's referred to as the 5. In Oregon, we refer to it as I-5. Same highway. Different phrases. All right. 70. So have you ever been able to tie a client's working with you to your market expertise? 70% of you said yes. 100%. 4% said no, and 17 and 9 of you said maybe so, or I don't know. Buddy, I was wondering, you have a story of a time that you worked with someone that you were able to say, they're working with me because I knew what they were asking about with the market?
Oh gosh. The first thing that comes to mind, I've got 2 or 3 builders that are been with me for 12, 15 years. One neighborhood, we've done over 900 homes, and they are not there for, quote, the marketing. They are not there for the sales skill sets necessarily. They are there for, I give them good advice, and they're comfortable with it, if that makes sense. But then again, the Monday morning coffee, the thing I started so many years ago when Real Pro Systems came out, that still works. Now, I don't send it every week because open rates are just horrible with email, like Patrick talked about. But there's people that literally will say, and they'll buy houses from other people. They'll come up to me and say, I've been getting your Monday morning coffee for 20 years. And I'm like, well, I've not sold you a house. So what's going on with, oh yeah, but I still use your information, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm curious, Patrick, if somebody or somebodies are watching and they're looking for advice from you, they're ready to take the next steps with becoming a local market expert. They want to know what they should be reading, consuming, doing, what advice would you give to them for next steps?
A couple things is really, I think people, the real estate community who are part of Sierra Interactive, they really need to learn how to use the tool to create that hyper-local expert content and to structure the content and to leverage that content more effectively, right? Instead of it just being a CRM and a lead gen tool, they really need to learn how to use the tool to build the content onto the site for long-term success and short-term nurturing of their customers. That's number one. And then number two is, is really understanding the value of it, right? So, everybody has to have that moment, just like Buddy, Buddy earned the respect and then the trust of these builders, right? Earned that. Right. And so, I remember I earned the trust and the respect of a client at an open house. He'd never met me before, but when I started talking about the neighborhood and the community and the property and the price types and the and what's going on in this neighborhood versus that and all this stuff, the person literally, he said, "Hey, do you have a pen and a piece of paper?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then he sat down at the table and said, "Good, because I want to give you all of my information and everything that I want, and I want to give it to you. Can you help me get that?" So, we talk about how do we chase down these leads to get them like vampires, in a vampire movie, versus really just demonstrating that you are a local expert, and then the person literally is begging you to work with them. We want to earn that. And there's no better place to earn that than doing it through content marketing with your website, with YouTube, with your Google Business Profile, right? With your social media to be able to pull that off, right? And so, as an industry, I think we just all need to kind of get on with this. But if I run what I do with my clients, I just run the numbers. Let me show you exactly. Let me take your little zip code. Let's pull up how many sales. Let's pull up the average sales price. Per sale, there's two sides. Let's run a quick calculation. How much money was paid to realtors in the last 12 months in the zip code that you live in? And I'm like, do you see that number? And it's usually this massive number. And I'm like, why are you not focused on getting a percentage of that? Right. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? If I got hired by a medical supply company and I was assigned the territory of California as a professional salesperson, we would know exactly how many hospitals, how many doctors, we would know what our competition was, and we would be trying to move the needle from this percentage to that. And then they would hire me to go get the percentage from here to there and to get more revenue in. And that's what professional salespeople do. That kind of conversation at the professional salesperson level is missing in the real estate community. We're kind of like, here's the script, here's some leads. All right, let's go. Let's make some calls. Let's LP mama them. Right. It's like, okay. And then the agents they're left in this state of discomfort with their level of confidence and competence, because the customer is asking them a bunch of questions and they're like, well, it's not on the script. It wasn't an objection handler that I was taught. Right. This is the information that you need to know to become a trusted real estate advisor. And then, yes, the scripts will then support you in asking better questions so that you can get these customers to decide to work with you. But we really need to kind of level up our game in this topic, and practicing creating educational content with our websites, with YouTube is a great place to get started, to start to build that confidence, right? So anyways, that's my rant on that.
All right, work to do. And it's been a wonderful mastermind. I think we could talk for another hour or more about this topic right now. We're not going to. We should do it again. I am going to tell all of you all, if you found this helpful, if you're watching live, if you're not, invite your friends to the next one. We'll be talking in a couple of weeks we are talking about identifying high intent leads. And so if one of you pointed out, and jumping off something that you said, Buddy, Amelia said, they showed a house to a lead that has been on our site for 6 years and wrote an offer for $750K. Gold is in the old leads. It's really about being able to identify the leads when they raise their hands. We'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. And a couple of weeks after that, talking about recruiting agents. I know that's a big topic of the day and has been for many days. So we'll be talking about that in Mastermind. So would love for you to join us again. If you'd like to hear about future webinars, if you want to get helpful content in addition to information about this mastermind, sign up for updates from Sierra Interactive. We'll drop a link in the chat so you can do that. And it would be wonderful to have you on that list. And if you have any feedback, you got something you want to mastermind about, beyond what I just mentioned, be sure to send your feedback to hello@sierrainteractive.com. Patrick, buddy, thank you so much. All of you all who joined us. We'll see you the next time.
Good to see you guys.